It sounds absolutely nuts if I say a superstar footballer could have gotten banned and locked up in prison because of some kangaroos, right? Well, that's exactly what happened to David Beckham. He was one of the most famous football players in the world, thanks to both his amazing performances and strikingly handsome face. And back in 2002, he led England to the World Cup and signed a juicy deal with Adidas to wear their custom boot, the Adidas Predator. Which was made of blood? Well, not really. But the real material this boot was made of was quite horrifying. The Adidas Predator was rightfully named because it was actually made out of kangaroo skin. And when people found out, there was a massive outrage, especially in California, where Beckham was going to continue his career. But upon arriving in Los Angeles, he was faced with an issue much bigger than angry fans. See, in California, it is illegal to hunt or kill kangaroos. And so this meant he had to pay either a $5,000 fine or face 6 months in prison. And a guy as good looking as Beckham wouldn't last a minute in jail, so he decided to switch his boots and pay the fine. So this story could be forgotten as quickly as possible. Beckham ended up getting off the hook easily with this one, especially if you compare it to what happened to Allan Saint-Maximin. This guy legit had to pay a fine every single day for years because of a simple headwear accessory. See, Allan was playing for Nice back in 2018, and instead of just focusing on his performances on the pitch, Allan decided to turn heads and go viral thanks to his drip. But he actually had an exclusive deal with Puma that prevented him from wearing any other brand. But Allan is not one to obey the rules, especially when breaking them could make him more famous than ever. So in one match against Bordeaux, he decided to do something that would break the internet. He came out wearing a Gucci headband, looking very stylish, but this gesture infuriated the French footballing authorities, because if you didn't know, branded headbands are banned. Allan managed to get away with it by covering the logo with white tape. His equivalent of waving the white flag, I guess. But he kept wearing the headband to practice, and Puma adjusted his contract so he'd put an end to this nonsense and start wearing a Puma headband. But he didn't seem to care, and preferred to pay a fine every single day. And sure, it was only $100, but I mean, come on, this must be the stupidest way a footballer has ever spent their money. But if you think Allan Saint-Maximin lost a lot of money, just wait until you hear the story of Nike and Brazil. This one's really crazy. The year is 2014, the World Cup is almost here and Brazil is hosting it. So obviously they hit up Nike to make sure they'd look fly for the biggest tournament in the world. Now when you think of the Brazilian national team, there are only 2 colours that come to mind, right? The classic green and yellow, which of course represents their nation's flag. But Nike decided to lean into their out-of-touch instincts and do what big corporations do best: mess things up. And they messed it up big time because the kit they announced was complete garbage. Well, at least according to the fans. And what's more important than fans? Are you a football fan yourself? I'm not sure I can believe you if you haven't subscribed yet. What the hell are you waiting for? But anyways, they ended up coming out with an all-black kit with the Brazil logo on the left sleeve, Brazil written on the front, and the 5 stars under the team name to represent their 5 World Cup wins. The players actually loved the design and approved of it, but the fans hated it. They felt the iconic green and yellow for home games and the blue kit for away games was perfect. Why change it? So after pressure from the fans, this kit was completely banned. I can't imagine how much money Nike ended up losing on design, samples, print, and marketing. Ouch. Listen to the fans next time. You might know that Neymar was the face of the campaign for this kit, but what you didn't know was that another time Neymar was responsible for an event that cost one of the biggest companies in the world billions of dollars. Well, except if you've already watched my video about Neymar, then I suggest skipping to the next item on the list. Anyways, this event also happened during the 2014 World Cup. Sony knew the potential exposure you can get with a successful campaign during the World Cup, and coincidentally, they had just dropped their brand new pair of headphones. So they dropped a whopping $280 million in FIFA's wallet to make their headphones the only ones authorized to be worn during the tournament. They gave every single player free headphones to make sure they would wear them during the entire World Cup. There was one big issue, however. The players started using them and realized these headphones were absolute trash. They'd rather listen to music on an old radio speaker. Or so I was told. Soon enough, the players started talking among themselves about how bad these headphones were. And you know how important music is to top athletes, so they weren't going to let it ruin their World Cup, but they needed someone to lead the revolution. And who else but Neymar Jr. And out of nowhere, Neymar was seen walking out of the team bus one day with a pair of Beats by Dre, and the world went crazy. Beats by Dre also dropped an advertising campaign at the same time, which went completely viral and got over 30 million views. And because of this, Sony's market price plummeted and made the company's valuation go down by over $1.7 billion. And what happened to Neymar, you might be asking? Well, absolutely nothing, actually, which is very surprising considering the next player on the list almost ruined his career and literally almost got banned from worldwide football because of some jewelry. Ever heard the name Wang Zhenchao? Well, during a friendly game between China and Myanmar in 2018, a lot of people got to know Mr. Zhenchao. But what could possibly go so wrong in a friendly game? Well, Wang was on the bench, watching the game when he was called up by his coach to make his entrance. This was his moment to shine, but instead, he pulled out a very shiny object that ended up stealing the spotlight from him. He went into his socks and pulled out a diamond necklace. He put it on, got on the pitch, and wore it for the entirety of the match. But what happened to Wang after the match was something no one had seen coming. Because the Chinese Football Association was so pissed with this move, they hit him with a fine costing more than the chain itself. But money's never a big deal for footballers, right? So they decided to ban him from national football for an entire year as well. Safe to say, he probably won't be trying that again in his career. But this is a fine that can be counted in thousands of dollars. But the next player, Rafinha, legit got fined over $1 million because he wore something he definitely wasn't supposed to. See, back in 2013, Rafinha was one of the hottest players in the world, and you know that the big brands love that. Deals that could pay my rent for generations. But anyways, Rafinha got offers from so many brands that he had a hard time making a choice, but he ended up going with Adidas. Little did he know this decision may have been the worst decision he could have ever made. For quite a few years, everything looked great. He was happy, and Adidas was happy. He even won a couple of trophies whilst wearing the boots in Spain and Brazil, but this glory was short-lived. Because soon after, Rafinha started to get injured more and more. He suffered serious injuries that left him on the bench, and because he was not playing in their boots frequently anymore, Adidas just ignored Rafinha. Rafinha felt like they threw him under the bus during his hard time, so when his contract was coming to an end in 2018, Rafinha decided he was done with the Germans. He was not going to extend his contract or wear Adidas ever again. As he regained his strength, he was seen playing in some all-black Mizuno boots, but this was a huge mistake, because Rafinha was completely blindsided by Adidas. They had put a hidden clause in his contract that allowed them to extend it by 5 more years, without him even knowing. So wearing his Mizuno boots was a breach of contract, and Adidas kept silent about this. They let him violate the contract more and more, and then out of nowhere, they sued Rafinha. And this was very, very expensive. As the contract stated, the fine would be just over $10,000 for every single day where he'd wear another brand. And it actually went through. The judge ruled in favor of Adidas and ordered Rafinha to pay over $1 million in damages. This was really sneaky from Adidas, and honestly, quite sad for Rafinha. But hey, business is business, right? But Adidas wasn't as sneaky as Jules Koundé in the 2022 World Cup in Qatar. See, France was playing against Poland and everything was cool until the 41st minute when the referee noticed something very shiny on Koundé's neck. He immediately blew his whistle and put the game on pause. And it turned out the referee was right. Because when he got close to Koundé, he found out he was wearing some ice on his neck. Where did he think he was? In the club? If you didn't know, footballers aren't allowed to wear any kind of jewelry on the pitch. They can wear them on the bench or during the pre-game warm-up, but not during the game. so when Koundé was caught, the chain was immediately removed. He was lucky to get off this easily because his manager, Didier Deschamps, was incredibly pissed at him. I don't know what he has on the necklace, but I know he's a bit superstitious and he wears it in training too. I don't know what the necklace meant to him, but I told him he was very lucky that I didn't catch him in front of me at that moment. After this, Didier Deschamps made sure the entire team understood that if one of them was caught with jewellery, they wouldn't get off this easily, and banned jewellery completely. Not allowed in training, not whilst on the bench, or anywhere else. Let me know if I've forgotten anything, subscribe, and if you haven't already watched the video I mentioned before on the 10 shocking facts about Neymar, click now. What are you waiting for?